Welcome to the Story Apothecary, a podcast filled with healing and medicinal stories. My name is Nana Tomova, and I'm a traditional storyteller and a pharmacist, and stories are medicines which I dispense. In this podcast, you'll find my prescriptions of stories for the body, mind, heart, soul, and for the earth. So I invite you to join me as we enter the healing world of stories together. Hello from the lands of autumn, where the autumnal leaves are blowing across the trees and houses with the wind, and there is a carpet of bronze and gold on the floor, and as you walk and drag your feet, you could hear the leaves rustling. It is a wonderful time of year, with the seasons changing, and the leaves falling from the trees to the ground, sometimes falling into the river, and the river taking them somewhere else. And the trees are naked, having let go their leaves, which they have made since the spring. They had unfurled, then they have fed the tree, and now they're blown away. Leaf litter, which will go into the soil and will feed the tree once more. And it is the season of All Hallows Eve, or All Saints' Day, or Hallowe'en, or wherever it is, if you celebrate this day, Hallowe'en as we call it. But before it became Halloween, with dressing up and exchanging sweets, before the day became commercialized, it was a day to remember the souls of those departed, to guard against darker spirits, with carving of pumpkins or turnips. And whichever day, whichever country of the world you go, they may have something slightly different. Wherever you're listening from, I encourage you to find out what they do, what they used to do in the old days to mark the passing of the souls of the ancestors. Not every country has a Hallows Eve, but every country around the time of autumn, at least once a year, where it is said that the veils between the worlds are thin, things are done to commemorate those past. For example, in Bulgaria we don't have Halloween, but there is the Dushnica, those for the souls that have departed, 3 times a year. And the latter one is around November time. Sometimes falls on Halloween, always on a Saturday. And there's different customs which are done, and different genders have different specific rituals they need to make. But rye is boiled with sugar and sweets, and is given to all the neighbours and then taken to the graves. Wine is poured, water is poured, sometimes cloves are left, so that the deceased may find food, sweetness, so those that have passed may find water, for they say that water is not available where they are, and they are thirsty, they are hungry. And all manner of things are done. And well, today's story comes from Scotland, and it is a story about this time of year. It is a spooky story, but I picked it so we can remember those that have departed. For the dead in this world are always more than the living. so it's good to remember them. Here is the song of a sorrowing harp. On the east coast of Scotland, in a castle over to the North Sea, they say that there was once a lord who had 2 daughters. One that was slightly older, with dark hair dark like a raven's wing, and the other one, slightly younger but only by a summer or 2. Her hair was blonde, golden, like the sun, and the sun reflected on it on a day where it was shining bright, and the 2 of them next to each other were quite a sight, one dark, one fair, both beautiful, their eyes deep, one blue, the other one's eyes brown, dark, like the fertile earth. Now most sisters get on well. They speak kindly with each other, but not always. And in this family, they were rivals. Something occurred between them that caused a ghost to speak. One spring day, there was a young man, our Lord himself, that came to court them. He paid formal addresses to the older sister, the dark-haired one like a raven's wing, but his eyes were always to the younger. When he smiled, he looked straight at her face, at her eyes, at her glistening hair, at her lips. He rode by her to go to the hunt. He danced with her at the hall, and all the while, the dark-haired sister followed him. Her heart was for him. She had eyes for him, and he knew it. He may not like to admit it, but he knew it, and he teased her. Not so that anybody would notice, but he knew that she would, and he rather enjoyed it. The dark-haired sister made no comment, but her heart was broken, for she knew that even though she was the oldest, and in those days the oldest sister married first, she knew, by the way that his eyes were drawn to her sister, that he would never be hers. She made no complaint, though. She was biding her time. Early one morning, the elder maiden asked her sister to walk by the seashore. This was not an unusual request, but the sister was friendlier than usual, and that was rather strange for the younger sister with the golden hair. As they walked, barefooted, leaving footsteps by the northern sea, as the water lapped gently, as it caressed their feet, as they could hear the waves in the distance, the gulls overhead, the cormorants. They spoke. They listened. One spoke more, and listened less, and one listened more, and spoke very little. and they made their way up from the white sands, up into the cliffs, the rocks that were beautiful, shining in the bright sun, all manner of shapes. It was a beautiful day. They could see the horizon and beyond it. And as they walked almost hand by hand, they spoke. And the younger sister could not help herself. She spoke guilelessly about the visitor who she found dashing. That's all she spoke of, and the more she talked, the more her sister's heart closed. The fair girl did not notice that she was causing pain to her sister. She was almost enchanted by that lord, by that young man that played them both, and enjoyed it. The elder sister said little, but at a place where the waves beat against the massive rocks, she acted. With a swift blow, she knocked her sister off balance into the foaming sea. The waves closed over the fair maiden's head and clawed at her hair with their icy fingers. She rose, gasping into the surface and screaming to her sister, but there was no response. She heard only the roaring of the waters and the sharp cries of the gulls as they wheeled in the sky above. The dark-haired sister stood above the shore rocks, as motionless as a curved statue. With a steady, unperturbed gaze, as if made of ice, she watched her sister's hopeless struggle. The young maiden couldn't swim. She rose again for a moment, but the wave struck her down again. And almost in that moment, giving up, looking at her sister, not quite believe what she had done, the cold began to enter her bones. She began to tremble in the sea. In a split moment of a second, you can decide to go up or down. In that moment, she wavered for a split second too long. She cried pitifully and sank again beneath the surging skirts of ocean foam. The older sister kept her vigil there for a time, observing the violence of the waves with a grin of satisfaction. After she was sure that there was no more human movement, that all had been still, that revenge had been had for her broken heart, but she had revenged on the wrong person. But still, when all was done, she ran home to her father's hall, weeping, gasping, panting, and told a false tale, saying how her sister had slipped on the rocks and she had drowned, how there was nothing that she could do, how she watched, how she tried to help her, how she tried to give her a helping hand, but it was too late. She had done all that she could, she had said. The people searched the shore for her, but alas, they could not find her body. They made a great mourning in the months that followed. They spoke of her. They told stories of her, they remembered her. Afterwards, the young lord, bereft of the fair sister, heartbroken, sought consolation with her sister, the dark-haired one, and it was gladly given of her, of course. But he did not even mourn properly. He was there, ready to play again, for a maiden's heart to him was just a game. The fair sister's body, drawn by wind and wave and tide, cradle in the killing waves, it drifted along like wood, along down the Scottish shore into a calm loch with turquoise waters still, like a mirror, far from her father's lands. There was a mill at that loch, at the loch edge, and a miller spied the golden hair stirring just beneath the surface. He thought it was gold for a minute. He went to pull, and then what did he find? It was not thread. It was not filigree. It was golden hair, and the golden hair was attached to a body. He gently pulled the body from the water, pale, ghostly-like, for the cold water had preserved her. She looked as beautiful and serene in her death as she had in her life. Around the same time it happened that a wandering minstrel, a harper, famed through Scotland, was staying with a miller. He played his harp and sang songs and told stories every night by the fire. He helped the man to give her a proper burial. And moved by her beauty, he took his knife and cut 3 strands of golden hair and strung them into his harp where the high note strings would have been, and they replaced the strings just perfectly, and they looked so beautiful as if they had belonged there all along. Eventually, as it often happens, the minstrel, the harper, went on to his journey 1 foot in front of the other, his face to the wind, and he carried on his way, travelling from castle to sing before lords of the land. And so he travelled with his harp, and in the months that followed the harp played for the minstrel with such a tenderness that brought tears to the eyes of all its listeners, melted hearts, even if they were made of stone, softened faces, the way that only good music and a good story can do sometimes. And the harper grew to cherish the golden strings. It seemed they had a power, a magic. When they played, the human emotion was brought forth in a way that his harp did, but not quite to that extent, until they had come to be on his harp. As it happened, one day the harper came to the stronghold of the maiden's father. But he did not know what that kind of land it was. Why would he? It was a place of a rich man just like any other. The minstrel was welcomed. He was given food and drink, a feast, and in exchange for the nourishment and a bed by the fire, he played for them. In the evening, when the hearth was lit, and the flame flickered shadows on the hall and the walls, and told stories as they danced, the man drew out his harp, set it before him, and began to get ready to sing. The dark-haired sister sat on a bench to listen. She sat between her father and by the young lord that she loved, who had forgotten all about the younger sister, it seemed. Hand in hand they were, listening, waiting to be entertained. And entertained they were. Before the harper could even touch the strings of his harp, the golden strings shimmered in the firelight, and they trembled out of their own accord. In a sweet, familiar voice eddied around the gathering, and when the dark sister heard the words it sang, her face grew pale and tight. Her heart beat like the wings of starlings as she sat as still as stone. Her fate had come upon her, and she knew it well. Her lies were found out, but not the way that she expected. For the harp sang of its own accord. Farewell to the Lord my Father, farewell to my Lady Mother. And there the harp paused, and the gathering that had formed by the fire watched and listened in horrid silence. And the strings sang once more, but not so softly. This time they wailed and shouted, and woe to my sister who murdered me. And although the story ends there, and it is not said what happened to the older sister, we can probably guess that she had her comeuppance, she was asked to leave. And who knows if her young lord came with her. My guess is he probably left her, went to court another woman who was much easier, didn't want his hand stained by blood. And who could blame him? But his courting, well, it's worth having a mention there. He is not completely guiltless. And so may, with this story, remember all that have passed, some peacefully, some not peacefully, some in old age, some before their time. May they rest well. May they rest in peace. And may we remember them as we sit in the autumnal nights with candles or with fire, sharing stories of them. For each person has at least one happy story. Each person has brought us at least one happy memory, even if we have to dig deep to find it. Some are easier to remember than others, but all worth our memory. May you have a good Samhain, a happy Halloween, a gentle time when the veil is thin. May you remember those who have passed with fondness, with gentleness, with love. May their memories always bring us light. Have a gentle few weeks, and I will see you next time. And if you're local to the Scottish Highlands, then join us for Stories and Harp on Saturday the 16th of November for Love in the Underworld. tales of love and heartbreak, jealousy and obsession, of loss and hope. It'll be me telling stories, and my friend Megan, who's a beautiful harpist. And the evocative stories and ethereal music will transport you to some faraway places. So join us by the warmth of the hearth as the darkness of the night sets in to listen to those dark and magical tales. If you've loved today's story, you'll love them, I promise. And if you're further afield, then you can join me for Wild Women that starts on Thursday the 8th of November. I'll put links to both. Thank you for joining me, and see you next month.